The first time I noticed something strange between my brother and my mother, I tried to ignore it. Families are complicated. Grief is messy. And after our father died, nothing in our home felt normal anymore. Still, some things stayed in the back of my mind. Little moments, little movements, little scenes that replayed in my head when I tried to sleep at night. My name is Emily Carter, and this happened 2 years ago in Columbus, Ohio. Even today, when I think about that morning, my chest still tightens. Because for 3 full minutes, I believed my family had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Our father died suddenly from a heart attack. One moment, he was fixing the fence in the backyard. The next moment, he was gone. Just like that. My mother, Linda, was shattered. They had been married for 32 years. My father had been her entire world. After the funeral, all 4 of us siblings sat together trying to figure out what to do. My mom had been living alone with Dad in a small house outside the city. Now the place felt empty and quiet. That's when my oldest brother, Daniel, spoke up.
Mom shouldn't stay there by herself. Not right now. She needs people around her.
Daniel lived in a comfortable 3-bedroom house in Columbus with his wife and their young son. But his wife traveled a lot for work, and he had the extra space. "We can rotate," he suggested. "Mom can stay a couple of months with each of us." Everyone agreed it was a good idea. At the time, nothing about it seemed strange. In fact, it felt like the right thing to do. For the first few months, Mom moved between our homes every 8 to 10 weeks.
But over time, something changed. Whenever she stayed with Daniel, she stayed longer.
And whenever it was time for her to leave, she always seemed reluctant. At first, I thought maybe she just liked spending time with her grandson. But then I started noticing other things. The first moment that made me pause happened during a family barbecue. Daniel was standing behind Mom while she was talking to my sister. Out of nowhere, he lightly smacked her backside. Not hard, just playful. Mom laughed like it was nothing. My sister didn't react. Nobody reacted. But I remember standing there with a hot dog in my hand thinking, did that really just happen? I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe it was just a weird family joke. But then it happened again. And again. Sometimes in the kitchen. Sometimes when they walked past each other in the hallway. Little playful taps that made me feel strangely uncomfortable. Yet they both acted like it was the most normal thing in the world. And because no one else seemed bothered, I kept quiet. Still, the feeling never fully left me. At the time, I was attending Ohio State University. College wasn't cheap, and my brother Daniel had stepped in to help when our father passed away. He paid part of my tuition. He helped with rent. Sometimes, he even gave me grocery money. Without him, I honestly don't know if I would have been able to stay in school. So whenever I had holidays or breaks, I stayed at his house to help out. I babysat my nephew, ran errands, cleaned the kitchen. It was my way of showing gratitude. And if I'm honest, it also meant I could save money. That summer, Mom happened to be staying there too. The 3 of us under one roof. That's when everything happened. The evening before the incident felt completely normal. We ate dinner together. Watched a movie. Mom went to bed around 10. Daniel stayed up working on his laptop. Before I went asleep, he reminded me about the package I needed to pick up the next morning. "Don't forget," he said. "Come knock on my door before you leave. I'll give you some cash." The kitchen needed groceries too. Milk, eggs, bread, basic stuff. "Just grab whatever we're low on," he added. "Okay," I said. Nothing about that conversation felt unusual. If anything, it felt like a normal brother-sister exchange. I went to sleep around midnight. I had no idea the next morning would change how I looked at my family forever. I woke up early. earlier than everyone else. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists before sunrise. I got dressed quickly and walked down the hallway to Daniel's room. I knocked. "Daniel," I called softly. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. That was strange. He was usually a light sleeper. I knocked a third time. "Daniel, I'm heading out." Silence. Then I noticed something. The door wasn't locked. It was slightly open. Just enough for me to push it. I hesitated for a moment, then nudged it open. The bed was empty. The bathroom door was open too. No shower running. "Daniel," I called again. Nothing. I checked my phone. 7:12 a.m. Maybe he had stepped outside. But then I remembered something. Mom's room. Maybe he had gone to check on her. She sometimes woke up early. So I walked down the hall and knocked on her door. No answer. The door was slightly open too. A thin line of dim light spilled through the gap. "Mom," I called gently. Still nothing. So I pushed the door open. And that's when my world stopped. Daniel was lying in the bed. Next to my mother. He was wearing only his boxers. My mother was lying beside him in her bra. The blanket was half pulled down around their waists. Both of them were deeply asleep. For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. My brain refused to process what my eyes were seeing. I stood there, frozen. Seconds passed. Then a minute. Then another. Thoughts slammed into my mind like crashing waves. Why are they in the same bed? Why are they barely dressed? How long has this been happening? My stomach twisted violently. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought they might wake up from the sound. 3 minutes. That's how long I stood there staring. 3 minutes that felt like an entire lifetime. Finally, my body reacted. I stepped backward. Quietly. Carefully. I pulled the door closed as softly as possible. Neither of them moved. They never knew I had been there. I walked outside. The morning air felt cold against my skin. I sat in my car with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. My brain refused to settle. Images replayed over and over again. Daniel's arm resting near her shoulder. The blanket pushed down. The silence of the room. A sick feeling spread through my chest. Had I been blind all this time? Were those strange little moments actually signs? The playful smacks. The long visits. The way Mom always chose Daniel's house. Suddenly, everything looked different. Everything looked suspicious. I started asking myself impossible questions. Should I confront them? Should I pretend I saw nothing? Should I call my sister? Should I tell someone? But another thought hit me just as hard. Daniel was paying for my education. If I accused him, if I created a family explosion, what would happen to my future? What if I was wrong? What if there was some explanation? Yet my mind kept returning to the same horrifying image. My brother, my mother, sleeping together, half-dressed, in the same bed. I felt sick. I didn't confront them that day, or the next. Instead, I acted like nothing had happened. But inside, my thoughts were eating me alive. Every laugh between them sounded suspicious. Every touch looked different. And the worst part, they both acted completely normal. Like that morning had never happened. Like there was nothing to hide. For 4 days, I carried the secret alone. Until something happened that forced the truth into the open. It was late evening. Daniel and I were sitting on the back porch while Mom was inside putting my nephew to bed. He looked tired. Exhausted, actually. I stared at him for a long moment before finally speaking. "Can I ask you something?" I said quietly. "Sure." My heart was pounding again. What were you doing in Mom's room the other morning? The color drained from his face instantly. For a second, he didn't speak. Then he rubbed his hands together nervously. You saw that? I nodded. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he sighed deeply. Then he told me something I never expected. For months, Mom had been struggling with severe panic attacks. The kind that woke her up in the middle of the night, gasping for air. Sometimes she thought she was dying. Sometimes she couldn't breathe at all. Daniel had been the only one living close enough to help. One night she woke him up, convinced she was having a heart attack just like Dad. He stayed with her until morning. Then it happened again the next night. And the next. Eventually, she became afraid to sleep alone. Daniel started sitting in her room at night so she wouldn't panic. Sometimes he fell asleep in the chair. Sometimes on the edge of the bed. The night I saw them, she had another attack. He stayed with her until she calmed down. At some point, they both fell asleep. The blankets shifted during the night. Nothing more. Nothing else. My stomach dropped as he finished the story. The horror I had imagined never existed. Instead, my brother had been quietly helping our grieving mother survive the darkest months of her life. And he never told anyone. Because he didn't want her to feel embarrassed. Tears burned in my eyes. For days, I had believed something terrible about my own family. I had looked at them with suspicion, with disgust, when the reality was something completely different. Something compassionate. Something human. Grief had broken our family in ways I didn't fully understand. And Daniel had been carrying more of that weight than anyone else. That night, I hugged my brother tighter than I ever had before. Later, I hugged my mother too. She looked fragile, but stronger than before. And in that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes what we think we see isn't the truth at all. Sometimes grief creates situations that look strange from the outside. But inside, they are simply acts of love. Still, every once in a while, I remember those 3 silent minutes in that bedroom doorway. And how close I came to destroying my family with a misunderstanding.